The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution says, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." One of the most controversial topics in today's political world is that idea of gun control. Did the founders of our nation mean that every individual had the right to carry a gun everywhere at all times? Did they mean that every state had the right to its own militia? Or what exactly did it mean? There's varying interpretations of the Second Amendment. Is it still a necessary part of our rights today? Is it still something that we are guaranteed as a right today, or has our world changed so much that we no longer need it and it's antiquated and should be dissolved? There's a couple different ways one can look at it. First of all, there's a couple. I'd like to give a couple sources that'd be real helpful. One of them is BuckeyeFirearms.com, gun quotations founding fathers, and that gives a couple of gives quotes our founding fathers gave over about guns. One of which said is, "I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery," which is Thomas Jefferson. And George Washington said, "A free people ought not only to be armed, but disciplined." And there's one more here, which I'm going to come back to in a second, but it says, "No free man shall ever be debarred the use of arms." Star that one in your mind, because we're going to discuss that in a moment here. A couple other sources that would be very good to look at is Guns, Crime, and Academics, Some Reflections on the Gun Control Debate by Jeffrey S. Parker. It's from the George Mason University School of Law, the Journal of Law, and it's in the Journal of Law and Economics. That's a real good source, an academic source on it. And I also have another source here that I actually ran into and while doing work here, and that's the Ideological Origins of the Second Amendment by Robert Shallhope, and it was published in the Journal of American History, 1982. To discuss gun control today is it's a hot button topic. But to begin, I think most people today view the idea of gun control it being a personal issue rather than a state militia. The idea that in the Second Amendment is talking to states have the right to have a militia, but individuals do not have the rights for guns is out there, and I don't want to skip over that. And there is some debate about that. But that's not exactly what I was going to just talk about. If one wants to go that direction, they may. What I actually was wanting to discuss is, in these days of mass shootings, it seems like, unfortunately, there's one on the news about every weekend. It's a real part of our daily life. Should every individual have the right to carry a gun? I mean, when we have Sandy Hook shootings, people, kids walk into schools with an AK-47. It's something that needs to be discussed. And I really like what one of our founders said about this. Needham, Mark Amat Needham, declared that a Republican society and government rested upon the popular possessions of arms as well as the regular election of magistrates and representatives. As long as the people have weapons, the government cannot oppress them. Needham claimed that the arms should not, however, be in the hands of any, but had an interest in the public. That goes along with the statement which I mentioned earlier, that Thomas Jefferson said, "No free man shall ever be debarred the use of arms." I wonder, and this is just a curious question on my part, when our nation was founded, there was a small percentage of the populace that was allowed to vote. This is very unfortunate. This is not the time or place to discuss that, but slaves couldn't vote, women couldn't vote, and majority of the men couldn't vote. Men couldn't vote unless you are a land-owning male across much of the country. The people that it seems like that our founders thought should be able to carry arms are people who had an interest in peace in the day-to-day peaceful part of society. They were the men who could vote. They were the free white males who owned land. Do I think that should be our rule of order today, that only free white men should be able to carry weapons? No, I do not. However, I do think that we need to remember that our founders did not argue that everyone should be able to carry a weapon. They did not think that uneducated individuals who I guess they were, especially in Virginia, they were wandering. There was wandering young men that seemed to live without a job and just wander from here and there and through the woods. Escape former apprenticeships and etc. Former criminals brought from Britain. It doesn't appear that the Constitution is appearing to protect them. It appears that gun ownership was to protect those individuals with land from the government and from other dangers to society. That people who had proven their responsibility, proven that they were responsible citizens, were asked to carry guns. These people were also the same people who formed the militias. So it's not like we're only talking about a small group of people. These are the people who served in the militias and in public office, who fought. It's the same group of people. But I wonder, if our founders were alive today, would they argue that every single person, once they turn 18, has the right to carry a concealed weapon, such as like the NRA would suggest? Or would they argue that every person who's proven they're a responsible citizen has the right to carry a weapon? I personally question the idea that every individual, regardless of their abilities or of their proof that they are responsible, should be able to carry one. However, I do not think that going down the road of government controlling and telling anyone that they cannot have a weapon is the way to do it. Our founders clearly wanted to protect our freedom by allowing those responsible citizens to be able to have a weapon to protect themselves from the government and from other dangers. And that's our discussion for today. Have a great day.